Thank you very much, countrymen and women. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the honorable members of Parliament under Tonse, Honorable Kabasoka Mpampi on the far end, Honorable George Chisanga, Honorable Mutoto Kafwaya, Honorable Kalimi Robert, and Honorable Emmanuel Tembo. Other honorable members of Parliament to join us along the way. As representatives of the people, we have decided to come and speak to the nation, given the many things that are going on in our country, ranging from what we are seeing in the media, the happenings in the health sector, exchanges between government and our cooperating partners, the unfortunate incident of one of our colleagues, Honorable Maureen Mawonga, who was sentenced to 8 months imprisonment yesterday, merely for exercising her rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. Countrymen and women, a nation's greatness is judged from its fidelity to the Constitution. Zambia is a constitutional democracy, and as a nation, we will be judged from our fidelity to the Constitution. Many a time, there's been arguments regarding our Constitution. Our argument has been that before you talk about the Constitution or indeed amendments to the Constitution, we must first of all evaluate to what extent we are able to implement the provisions of the Constitution as it stands now. It's one thing to propose constitution amendments, but if you can't even follow what is already provided in the current Constitution, why would you then want to amend the Constitution? I'll give you an example. From time the UPND took over power, we've been talking about Article 259. We've been saying some of the objectives, some of the issues that have been raised regarding new constitution amendments can actually be resolved using Article 259. To what extent is this government implementing Article 259? Part 3 of our Constitution that embodies the fundamental rights of every citizen. To what extent is this government following Part 3 of our Constitution? So like I said in my opening remarks, the greatness of a nation is judged from its fidelity to the Constitution. So when you look at Zambia as a country, we are a constitutional democracy. And democratic constitutionalism is based basically on two principles. A, it's a representative government, and B, protection of human rights. So as we look at our country today, let's judge our constitutional democracy based on these two things. A representative government that's enabling citizens to participate in public affairs and hold their government to account. And under protection of human rights, we are talking about the due process of the law, freedom of speech, and religious tolerance, through which citizens are insulated from abuses of power. So with me are my colleagues that are going to help us discuss Honorable Mawonga's incarceration, indeed what's happening in our economy. Honorable Kafwaya will tackle predominantly what's happening in our economy. He will tackle what's happening in the health sector, in the agricultural sector, Honorable Emmanuel Tembo will equally come in, so that we as members of parliament, as people's representatives, are able to get back to our people. It's indeed a source of concern because our numbers are reducing every day. I want to remind the Zambian people that yesterday, Honorable Mavunga just joined the long list of the honorable members of parliament who have lost their seats through dubious processes. If you look at the way that Bowman Lusambo lost his seat, Honorable Joe Malanji lost his seat, Honorable Chilangwa lost his seat, how Honorable Chitota lost his seat, how Honorable Munianzuru lost his seat, Honorable JJ Banda, and now Honorable Mavunga. You would only come to one conclusion and one conclusion only, that in all these cases, you cannot say there was justice. If you wanted to look at justice as fairness, if you look at individual cases put together, you only come to one conclusion and one conclusion only, and which is that the UPND government has been totally unfair. They are on a path to destroy the opposition. They are on a path to destroy the dissenting voice. We stand here on behalf of other honorable members of parliament to make one pledge and one promise to the UPND. Our promise is that we are the representatives of the people and that we will not sit back. We will continue to speak for and on behalf of the Zambian people. Because if we are allowed to speak, that's the only way that the UPND government will improve this economy. That's the only way that the UPND government will ensure that our health facilities have got medicines. That's the only way the UPND government will stop or restrain themselves from exporting maize. That's the only way the UPND government will restrain themselves from continuing to give away mines for free. That will be the only route through which we can stop the UPND government from pretending to bring in PPPs when in the actual sense it's themselves who are taking over state assets without due process. So we, as members of parliament under Tonse, would like to make one pledge to the UPND government that we shall not stop speaking. We will continue to speak for and on behalf of the Zambian people. We are elected officials, representatives of the people, whose task is to speak for and on behalf of the Zambian people. May I, at this point, invite Honorable Mtoto Kafwaya, to deliver his address to the nation. Honorable Kafwaya.
Thank you so much, Honorable Munduvile.
Just a moment, Honorable Kafwaya. We would like to welcome Mr. Celestine Mkandula. This is the Tonse National Youth Chapter. Councillor, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Brian Munduvile, the head of parliamentary affairs for Tonse. Honorable senior members of Central Committee of the Patriotic Front Party, the Tonse Council of Leaders present, and other honorable members, I would like to recognize you, as I do my friends in the media. In continuing with the spirit of speaking for our people, I would like to remind the UPND that they have families and that 50% plus one is coming just next year. Those whose donated medicine have been stolen by UPND have families. Those who won't be able to access malaria drugs, HIV drugs, and all drugs that are donated by the American government have families, and 50% plus one is coming just next year. Not too long ago, one minister said, only those who are unemployed can say the economy is bad. Those who are unemployed, those who have no jobs, have families, 50% plus one is coming, and they will count when it does come, just next year. You know, those who are unfairly removed from their jobs, who have been fired by UPND, those who have unfairly been placed at the holding position for no reason, they have families, they have friends, 50% plus one is coming. Those who have lost businesses as a result of load shedding and poor governance, poor leadership by the UPND government, I want to tell you that they have families and they do have friends. 50% plus one is coming. Those who have lost children and loved ones by the bullet, like we have lost my nephew Ernest in Matero, they have families and they have friends. 50% plus one is coming, and it is coming very, very soon. There are those leaders who have lost their seats in the National Assembly of Zambia. Some of them are now behind bars. Others have run away from their own country. I want to remind you that they have families and they have friends, and 50% plus one is coming. So, to Honorable Chitotela, to Honorable Chilangwa, to Honorable Lusambo, to Honorable Mniazulu, to Honorable Mabonga, I want to say we remain with you as your colleagues. But I do know that even where you are there, your voices will count within the boundaries of those facilities. But also, I know you have families, you have friends. 50% is coming. 50% plus one, I mean, is coming. And this is the same for Honorable Malanji and for Honorable Emmanuel J. Banda, who both have lost their seats like those who have been incarcerated. Let me just remind the UPND that while we know that 50% is coming, and we'll keep on reminding our people that this 50% plus one has to be influenced by the actions of UPND, it is important for me to continue on the trajectory of reminding UPND so they can be able to stop some of the illegal things that they continue to perpetuate. I want to tell UPND not to use the report, the audit report, which they told us they had given to the law enforcement agencies. I say so because I insist that is an illegal audit report. It is illegal in the sense that UPND has informed us that that audit was contracted by the Auditor General. And I have to tell you that when Auditor General does work, that work cannot go anywhere before it goes to the National Assembly of Zambia and to the President of the Republic of Zambia. So to short-circuit the process and get the Auditor General's report to the law enforcement agencies is illegal. It's not provided for anywhere in the law. Because of that illegality, I want to urge the law enforcement agencies not to deploy that report for its illegality. I also want to remind the UPND to follow the proper channel. Submit that report to the National Assembly of Zambia. Submit it to the President And from there, then you can publish it. And to do so, you may have to start a new process, because that one, you have already short-circuited it in a wrong way. I also want to remind you, PND, to stop using certain terrible expressions, such as saying only economists can understand the economy. Are you telling us that all these people, some of them who you are telling that they don't have jobs, therefore they can feel the pinch of the bad economy, do not see where we are? Stop insulting us. We have suffered enough as general populace. Stop thinking that we don't think, that we don't actually look at how bad this economy has become, how expensive things have become. We don't think that we don't see how high the inflation is, how, how bad the exchange rates have become. Don't think we don't know how terribly high the cost of fuel has become, the cost of meal, the cost of sugar, the cost of all these things. Don't insult us. At least maintain, that dignity for us as the Zambian people. It is wrong for you, PND, to say only economists understand the economy. After all, some economists have been saying they have done well. What well have they done? Increasing the cost of meal, increasing the cost of transport. What well have they done? How have they understood that the economy is doing well when the economy is doing so badly? Stop mocking us. I want to reiterate what I said somewhere, that in this farming season, in this marketing season, I'm calling upon you, PND, to buy maize from the Zambian people at the same rate that they procured maize from Tanzania. Remember, when it was put to you, PND, that you procured that maize expensively, you said, no, it was market rate. So if it was market rate, use that same rate to procure from Zambians. I also want you to remember that when you are procuring that, you procured maize with diseases. Okay? Maize which had aflatoxins. So the Zambian people are now having proper maize procure at the same rate. Failure to which we shall conclude in no uncertain terms that you have completely fallen in love with foreigners at the expense of the Zambian people. But yes, the health sector is something I would not even talk about because those foreigners who are being threatened to be sent away through cargo planes, I've already told you. I can just say that I am worried about the grounding of UPND in leadership. On one day, a set of ministers are crying for sovereignty. They are crying for adherence to the Vienna Convention. The same set of ministers, barely after one day, will go and tell the same people that help us to govern. We don't know what to do. Now, what sovereignty are you talking about? For me, that's a problem. That's a problem. You want sovereignty in one breath, but the very next day you go to the same people and say, help us to solve these problems. Listen, there's nothing those people are going to do. Those people donated the medicine, and then you have stolen the medicine. So what you do is, how do they help you to, how do you go to the international community and start saying, how? As if when stealing you plan with them. Donate Americans. Give this medicine to the people. 50% plus one is coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Foya.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Brian Mundubire, and thank you very much, Honorable Kafwaya. I just wanted to say something. That the economists are the ones who are understanding this, who are getting that. And as far as I'm concerned, Shalumburia Machina. Naishwana Tibambi bakwata first degree mu economist. Bambi bakwata masters mu MBA. Inina kwata masters mu economist. I'm an economist. Noti na kuisana ku Unilasi, ku Cavendish, pa University of Zambia. Masters mu economics. Which economy? I understand. Fish today mfuwa ifwe. Bambi bakwata MBA. Shabaro mbudeshina na degree ya economics. Oyo na ishi. Teba economy. Niba nishibu economics bari chila banabo bakwata masters. Shabaro mbudia mashina, shilefu okulumbula mashina abantu. But na mubeshiba. Nomba ni economics wa msamusha. Bale kiyokutuka abantu. Ukuiba ekulanda tuba economics beshibefi ya kuchita. Ukufiru okuchita reduce fertilizer. Ukufiru okuchita reduce ubunga. Ukufira okuchita reduce fuel economics bakwata. Ukufuwaya ukulaka kafia abantu omoshachela mabonga finisha abachita. Tuilalanda ukulaipa abantu enchito. Ebu economist ubo take ni chalo 50 plus 1 is coming. How napela mkwai nalanda.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I will now call upon Honorable George Sanga before I invite Honorable Emmanuel Tembo to speak to us. Sorry, Councillor George. Yes. Let me just welcome our Deputy Secretary General, Honorable Brenda Ndrenda, who has just joined us. And on the other side is Honorable Anthony Kasandwe, a member of Parliament for Bangalore, who has also just joined us. Honorable Stephen Kampiongo, Avena Shwangandu,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leader of Opposition. And let me just ride on the protocols that have already been established at the beginning of this meeting. The bigger question that we want to address today, or the elephant in the room, is the issue of the unfortunate conviction and jailing of Honorable Mabonga, the MP from Four, yesterday. So our core of this presser is basically to express our anger, to express our disappointment, because yesterday was yet again another dark day in the constitutional democracy of this republic. The nation is aware that Mrs. Mabonga and Mr. Munia Zulu's jailing were conveniently timed at the time that the UPND had tabled constitutional amendments on the floor of the House. As we return to Parliament, we are going to begin to consider the controversial constitutional amendments that are being proposed by the UPND government. The absence of these two lawmakers is deliberately intended to skew the debate in favor of our colleagues, because indeed, in their absence, the numbers of those who are opposed to the constitutional amendment that is being proposed by the UPND in the House begin to reduce. Gracefully, it is not only the Patriotic Front which is opposed to this proposed amendment. The majority of Zambians that we've spoken to, the majority of stakeholders that we've engaged, the churches, civil service organizations, NGOs, and many other stakeholders have expressed their disagreement at this proposal to amend the Constitution. So for us sitting on the political platform, we cannot divorce what transpired yesterday and what transpired in the case of Honorable Munia Zulu to the fact that this is a timed arrangement, making sure that we reduce our capacity in providing opposition to the proposed constitutional amendments. The nation is also aware that Mrs. Mabonga joins a long queue of PF members and PF-aligned MPs and other leaders who have been victims of injustice and victims of the selective application of the law since the UPND took power in 2021. My colleagues have already mentioned the names of our colleagues who've had to face the brunt of being subjected to what is a very subjective legal system a very subjective court process that resulted in their convictions and jailing. The names Godfrey Waliamwamba, Honorable Chimbakambwili, Honorable Chilangwa, Honorable Chitotela, our council chairperson, Mr. Chifumbe, Mr. Munia Zulu, and Mrs. Mawonga are all cases of this injustice. We are surprised that for a country that is limping economically, we can so irresponsibly allow people to lose their position as members of parliament and instigate by-elections. You know, in a country that is solely dependent on donor aid and whose economy is limping because the government continues to pursue policies which don't help the Zambians and which don't improve the Zambian. It is a very clear fact that Honorable Mawonga was merely responding to provocative statements that have become an order of the day by the UPND officials and cadres, which are targeted at the Patriotic Front leadership. There is a long queue of senior leaders and cadres of the UPND who have committed serious crimes and about whom complaints have been filed, but nothing has happened to them. They have not been arrested. No prosecutions have taken place up to this date. The case of JJ's captors still remains an ugly example of the misapplication of the rule of law. It is a well-known fact that Mr. JJ Banda was abducted. When he had an opportunity through his lawyers, he named who his abductors were. The captors are walking free, scot-free on the streets. They have not been arrested. JJ was arrested and subjected to a kangaroo court process, and he used the initiative of escape as the only way to win his freedom. In fact, it is a formal statement by the government that JJ escaped. Insofar as the Patriotic Front leadership is concerned, JJ is still in the hands of the police because he was arrested, he was in custody, he was being looked after by the police at the time that his recorded disappearance took place. In trying to compare these cases, one can use a classical case, you know, where the unconstitutionally instituted leader of opposition in parliament, who, while asking the Republican president to provisionally transfer power to him, threatened to pack diplomats in a cargo plane and throw them out of the country. When his case was reported to the police by various citizens, including our ambassador Emmanuel Mumba, the police have flatly refused to carry out their statutory mandate and have said they will not arrest Honorable Chavinga. This is a classical case of misapplication of the law, where somebody who actually commits an offense gets the protection of the state, and the state machinery decides they're not going to carry out the duties to arrest an offender. In fact, the words that were used by Mrs. Mawonga in a statement, if anybody subjected them to an objective assessment, one could possibly, these words could not possibly be considered to be seditious. If any lawyer or any magistrate or any judge or any other person who is interested to know what really comprises the offense of sedition subjected what Mrs. Mawonga said, you could not lightly conclude, as the magistrate concluded, that she committed an offense. We were even more surprised when the magistrate tried to justify his verdict by drawing comparisons between what happened when Mrs. Mawonga made a statement and the genocide in Rwanda and the reasons why Rwanda got into a genocide. Unfortunately, the magistrate could not fully explain how he drew those comparisons and how that conclusion resulted in him thinking that Mrs. Mawonga was instigating anything akin to a genocide. We are therefore very convinced that this MP is an innocent victim of a wider campaign by the UPND to destroy the opposition while stamping its authority on the nation in the creation of a de facto one-party state. What we saw yesterday was not justice. Rather, it was a systemic lynching of dissenting voices. At the rate that the country is moving, many, if not all, members of parliament of the opposition and other leaders who choose to exercise their freedoms guaranteed for citizens by the Constitution, especially the freedom of expression, the freedom of assembly, and the freedom of speech, who end up being jailed by this authoritative regime. The ugly face of police conduct yesterday within the precincts of the court, when the opposition leaders wanted to state their views on the unfortunate verdict against Honorable Mawonga, is a clear testimony of what this government has resolved to do in its treatment of the opposition. The country faces a leadership which took power on the backdrop of a popular acclaim but which has quickly transformed into an authoritative regime dedicated to the total destruction of the government, of its government institutions, and undermining constitutional order and the rule of law, all of which are important prerequisites to maintaining social order. These unfortunate developments can have one or two of the two consequences. Firstly, it can cause fear in the population and make all of us retreat to our holes of solace. Secondly, it can embolden the population to make a collective resolve to stand up and defend the Constitution and the rule of law and the plural politics that we availed for ourselves in 1993 and reinforced that in 2016. It is now all too clear that the UPND government has proceeded with a speed in its path of national destruction because the majority of citizens have chosen to sit back and watch the ugly unfolding scenes without calling this government to question. As a country, we need to decide collectively how we are going to proceed as a nation going forward. We are either going to retreat and express our collective fear against this government, or we are going to take the step and protect the constitutional democracy that we started the journey on in 2016. Our call is to provide leadership in the opposition. We came here because we think that we can make a statement on what the opposition must do in carrying this country forward. We have the opportunity to redesign opposition politics in the opposition under the umbrella of the Tonse Alliance, and by extension, the Zambia we want. And therefore, we, as members of Parliament for the Patriotic Front, would like to call the opposition to unity. That is the only answer that we can provide to the UPND at the time when these unfortunate and ugly events are taking place in the nation. We call upon all members of the Tonse Alliance and the Zambia we want, and by extension, the United Kwacha Alliance, or at least the remnant of what has remained in it, to unite around an ideology and a philosophy that is going to turn the tables in this nation and restore it to its past years of glory. Unfortunately, what we are going through right now, like I said before, is nothing else than gangsterism. We have replaced the Constitution, we have replaced the rule of law by the rule of giants or the rule of savages. You cannot explain it any better when you have a country where if you belong to the UPND or if your allegiance is owed to the UPND, you can commit any manner of offenses, any manner of crimes, and nothing is going to come to you as a consequence. And if you belong to the Patriotic Front or indeed the Tonse Alliance, even when they just think that you have committed an offense, without committing such an offense, they will subject you to a quickened process of the rule by law and have you convicted. More still, if you're a member of Parliament like people who are sitting on this table today, that will mean their focus will be to have a by-election in your constituency. But like has been stated by the leader of opposition, we are not about to stop talking. We were elected to speak and to speak on behalf of the masses of the nation. If we're going to all end up in jail, it's the resolve that we are going to carry out, with a determination, because we think that we have a country that we have to save, we have a democracy that we have to protect, we have actually a constitutional democracy that we have to preserve. We want to also make a call on our leaders in the opposition. I think the time for us to seize the pursuit of personal glory by all of us wanting to become president has come to an end. What we saw yesterday, how we saw the police being unleashed on various presidents that converged at the subordinate court to try and support Honorable Mawonga, is a clear example of how relentless this regime has resolved to distract the opposition political parties. It will help if you all stop the pursuit of personal glory by all wanting to be presidents at the same time. We should, like I said earlier on, rally around an ideology and a philosophy. We need to try and inspire confidence in the population that they can have an opposition that can be depended upon, they can have an opposition that can provide alternative policy and alternative leadership. Because indeed, the Zambians have resolved they are not going to have anything of the UPND beyond 2026. What is only lacking is credible leadership. One would ask a question: why would I want to seek to be president in a country that has set itself on a path of destruction? Why would I want to be a president in a country which has lost faith in a functioning civil service, which has lost faith in the function of the ECZ, which has lost faith in the mining sector, which has lost faith in agricultural sector, which has lost faith in ethnic relationships, which has lost faith in our regional and international relationships. Why would you want to be president of such a country? Isn't it helpful for us to find an idea that will help this country to transition back to the real constitutional democracy that can then allow you to provide leadership at every angle, including leadership? What we need as a nation is a coalition of concerned parties comprised of politicians, civil service organizations, NGOs, faith-based organizations, and even some of the redeeming voices within the UPND, because I must state here that we've been engaging with our friends within the UPND who are equally disgruntled with what is going on in the country. I think time has now come for us to rally around as a coalition and create an alternative leadership for this nation that will make people go back to the aspirations that had made them decide they're going to give the UPND the mandate. Clearly, the UPND has lost the moral right to rule this country. They have destroyed just about everything that exists in this country. It is time for the Zambians to make a decision in August 2026 to send them on leave and replace them with a credible leadership, a leadership that is visionary, one that is going to turn the fortunes of a country around. These arrests are not going to stop members of parliament for the Patriotic Front and other credible opposition leaders from speaking about the issues that come to the fore when we have to manage the affairs of the nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was Honorable George Sanga. I'll now call upon Honorable Emmanuel Tembo before I call upon the DSG to speak to us.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition, at the same time, Chairperson, Tonse Alliance Parliamentary Affairs, and I recognize the presence of senior leaders in the PF, the Tonse Alliance. Yes, indeed, I would also like to confirm that nothing will stop us from continuing to speak. All these events that have unfolded have actually encouraged us to speak even more. We are not going to accept this intimidation by the UPND government. We are not going to accept any intimidation from any individual, because Zambia is greater than any other person. We are building upon the blood which was shed by our forefathers. Before independence in 1964, a lot of blood was lost by many Zambians, some of them unknown. And we are not going to allow the UPND to destroy the freedom that was fought by our forefathers. Now, to us, Honorable Maureen Mabonga, yes, she has been jailed. She is a hero, not only for the Patriotic Front, but by this country and many women who are voiceless. She stood up to speak on behalf of the people. She stood up against injustice. To that extent, I want to say that, yes, she has been jailed, but the ideals and the principles upon which she stood for have not been jailed, and they continue to be living organisms. You can imprison a person, but you cannot imprison the ideals upon which that person stands for. It is true that the comments, when those comments which Honorable Mabonga made, which were meant, to react to the disappearance and the abduction of Honorable J.J. Banda, the following day, we saw J.J. Banda resurface. And therefore, we believe that what she's been jailed for was something very noble. Yes, you can imprison as many people as possible, but you have failed to imprison hunger and poverty, which still reigns supreme. And indeed, the fight which the UPND will face next year is against hunger and poverty, which is increasing. Whilst they're increasing the arrest and imprisonment of opposition leaders, hunger and poverty is going on. Also, allow me to comment on the fact that, the rule of law. We want a country which is ruled according to the law and not according to men. And let me just say that there is an irretrievable breakdown of the rule of law in this country under the UPND. Honorable Ndobela referred to Article 59 of the Constitution, which talks about representation of women and youth and other, differently abled Zambians in different organs, starting from government appointments, nominations, and election. But let me state that whilst the UPND is purportedly pushing for the agenda to include women and youths, they are actually incarcerating youths. So far, 3 youths have been incarcerated who are members of parliament. One has been made to flee the country, as already said, in the name of J.J. Banda. And one female, because they are also purporting to be promoting women, but one female, just yesterday, Honorable Mawonga. So indeed, let me just summarize by saying that there's never been such a moment in the history of this country where politicians, after independence, have been jailed to this. In fact, the UPND has even surpassed how Kaunda and his colleagues were imprisoned during the freedom struggle for this country. And in fact, this President Hakainde, has actually confessed that he's a failure. He did indicate that leadership to him is difficult. But from a distance, it looks simple, but now that he has tested, he has come to a conclusion that it is difficult. What else? In explaining this, the only conclusion we can deduce is that he's found it difficult to run this country. And to that extent, instead of jailing the opposition, why not resign? And I think that is a noble thing that Zambians are expecting. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Emmanuel Tembo. I'll now be calling upon our Deputy Secretary General before I call upon our National Youth Chairperson for Tonse. Yes, Honorable Tembo, you referred to what the President said on leadership. He said leadership is not easy. We agree with him. I think the only thing he has not done is to come back to the Zambian people and apologize, especially to President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. I'm sure in the President's eyes now, he looks at President Lungu as a hero. President Lungu now is like a mentor, to President Hakainde Hichilema. Because President HH is saying leadership is not easy. After recording so many failures, there's been failures in the agricultural sector, failures in the health sector, failures in the economy, failures in the mining sector. So you can imagine coming to admit that leadership is not easy when there's been no appreciable progress made in the sectors I've just stated. But if you go back, he's now looking at President Lungu and wondering how he managed to do, for instance, the Copper Belt 400, the 400-kilometer township roads on the Copper Belt. President Hakainde Hichilema is wondering how ECL managed to do L400, Lusaka 400, where all these township roads in Lusaka were done. He is now wondering how ECL managed to do the decongestion program that brought in the flyover bridges and other roads as it were. President Hakainde Hichilema, by saying leadership is not easy, is also surprised that President Lungu was able to construct 3 big airports, one in Ndola, the other one in Lusaka, and the other one in Livingston. He's actually amazed that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu was able to do a bridge for close to $300 million, the Kazungula Bridge. And also, he was also able to do the Kafue Gorge Lower, 750 megawatts, which they only completed the 20% that remained. The Kafulafuta Dam that he was commissioning was at 84%. They only did 16%. Kasama airports and all these. So President Hakainde Hichilema is saying, how on earth did President Edgar Chagwa Lungu and the PF do all these things? Because he's saying it's difficult when the progress that we're registering is only at CD level, CDF level. So at CDF level, they're struggling. As I speak to you now, the Minister of Local Government is all over the country and is recording failures at every juncture. Look, he's an innocent fellow. A gift is an innocent fellow. He's just coming now. But he is surprised because the impression that he got from Parliament was that CDF was working. So he's on the ground now to realize that even at CDF level, countrymen and women, look, we have to state facts as they stand. CDF is only equivalent to 5 billion kwacha, if you like, against a budget of 170 billion kwacha. So failures that are being recorded for a budget of 5 billion are, as you are reading in the papers. And the president is now saying leadership is not easy because the only projects they're implementing are CDF. And they're failing. That is, being able to implement projects with 5 billion kwacha. So we want to agree with President Hakainde Hichilema that leadership is not easy. It's something my colleagues and I attempted to tell him the first 2-3 years, to say, no, take it easy. Go back to your brother, go back to ECL, speak to him. He may just give you an idea or two. To come and admit a few months before elections is rather too late. But he should own up, be able to come before the Zambian people and say that he did not understand the assignment completely. When he was promising to reduce millimil to 50 kwacha, the president did not understand the assignment completely. When he said the dollar will reduce based on confidence that he had come in, he did not understand the assignment completely. When he was talking about load shedding, he did not understand the assignment completely. When he was talking about infrastructure projects, he did not understand the assignment completely. When he was giving away the dual carriageway to some consortium that didn't exist before that particular project came and called it a PPP, he now understands it's not a PPP. He also did not understand the assignment completely. When they were giving away Mopani for free, giving it away for free, he did not understand the assignment completely. The assignment there was that the Zambian government had decided to repossess some of these mines and begin to run these mines so that we can maximize benefit from the mining sector. But he came in and just gave out that mine free of charge. Why? Because he did not understand the assignment completely. Him and Comrade Musukotwane did not understand that the cost of fuel was dependent upon two fundamentals. One was the international oil price, the other one was the exchange rate. By giving away those concessions that they gave, giving these mines, reducing mineral royalty tax from 6% to 3%, and making it deductible, that would reduce revenue to the treasury in terms of dollars. This was going to increase the exchange rates and eventually have an impact on the cost of fuel. Now, the cost of fuel impacts almost everything in this country. So the reason is simple. Our friends did not understand the assignment. We want to say this to the Zambian people. The UPND government has gone to Kenya to hire experts. After hiring experts, they employed people in the ministries. They have employed director of media, but nothing is working. All these people that they have hired, I feel pity for our young brother. There's some director in media now. He's all over the show. But you see, you have to have what to say. It doesn't matter how good you think you are. If there's nothing to say, the result is the same. The Kenyan experts have done a great job wherever they've been contracted. Why? Because there's been content. They've been able to project a progress, of a particular country that contracted them. You can't bring in experts to come and spin the narrative where you said millimil will be at 50 kwacha and millimil is at 450. What are you going to say? Because at the end of the day, the people still buy millimil at 450. If you said fuel will be at 12 kwacha and today fuel is at 32 kwacha, even if you brought the best media expert, there is nothing that they will say, because the motorists to go to the service station and still buy a fuel at 50 kwacha. So I sympathize. I sympathize with our colleagues in the EPND. They should not think words alone can pacify the situation. Words alone will not bring down the cost of living. To my big brother, President Hakainde Hichilema, he has got a few months to rectify the situation before they leave government. Because obviously, as the head of state, he needs to leave a legacy. He needs to be remembered for something. 4 years down the line, there's absolutely nothing to remember the president for. The only thing the Zambians are remembering President Hakainde for is a high cost of living. So he's got a couple of months now to quickly adjust, and be able to do something for the Zambian people. President ECL is not vengeful. I know very well that if President Hakainde Hichilema picked up the phone apologize to his brother, and ask him what he can do in the remaining months just to try and save face, at least be able to do something that will add to his legacy. President Edgar Chagwa Lungu will be very quick to assist his brother so that he just does not walk away from presidency with a bad record. I just thought I could say that, after Comrade Emmanuel made reference to the president owning up that leadership is not easy. DSG, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I want to recognize our senior members of parliament here, those who have been in parliament more than 2 terms. I want to recognize our leaders in the Patriotic Front and in the Tonse Alliance. And above all, I think I just want to honor God for everything that He's doing for this country. Zambia needed to change leadership so that the people can be able to test the other type of leadership before they can make the right decision. When you have a good leader in power, it's very easy for you to abuse him. It's very easy for you to maybe, throw a lot of mud at him. I think as at today, every Zambian in their home, when they sit and they ask themselves questions as to what they did to the Patriotic Front, I'm sure every home is now saying, we are sorry that we removed, the Patriotic Front, people who had a heart, people who loved the country to the core. Why am I saying this? It's only 11 months before the parliament is dissolved. By May, will have been dissolved. There will be no member of parliament, there will be no president, there will be nothing. We'll be getting into an election. It will be 3 months before the general election. And today, parliamentarians are being arrested and being sent to jail. And this means that in the next 11 months, we still have to spend colossal sums of money to replace those members of parliament. Who does that? Who makes such a decision? In a home, you even know that there is no food for your children, then you go and start spending to buy a Mercedes-Benz. Where is the heart of the leader? In everything that is happening, the reason why the president appoints the leadership, even the reason why he appoints the justice, the reason why he appoints the leader from parliament is for them to be having conversations so that they can be able to take this country to another level. What I would just want to say is that the judiciary has failed us. Even them, they would have resonated very well with the powers that be to tell them, to say it's only 11 months before parliament is dissolved. There would be no need, there would be genuinely no need of incarcerating our members of parliament, because if really they have done a good work, it's only after 11 months they are going to have new members of parliament. If Honorable Mawonga, Honorable JJ Banda, Honorable Munia Zulu, Honorable Chitoteland, Honorable, if they didn't do a good work, they should have just held on until such a time. We had a leader in Edgar Chagwa Lungu. There was one of the members of parliament who was arrested in the UPND, but he refused that, do not incarcerate this person. The best is for them to be just given a fine, and then they continue until such a time. A leader is supposed to know when they are supposed to save resources for the nation. We are talking about domestic resource mobilization. If there's few resources that we have in our country, we are all sending them for by-elections. What are we going to have to feed our people? It's painful today. As a woman, I feel it. Mawonga has left a 2-year-old child. She's a young parliamentarian. And honestly, how can we be so hard-hearted that we can incarcerate a mother, someone who is supposed to be nurturing a 2-year-old child, and the other children who still need her care? We have Wanzila, Mrs. Kampyongo, who has been incarcerated 3 years. She has left young children who need to be taken to school, who need to be fed. My appeal is that Zambians, you have seen the type of leadership that we have. They do not have a heart, even for the innocent small children who are there. They should have thought better, especially for the women. I'm crying. There was no need to keep Wanzila in prison for property which was left by your mother and father. There was no need, definitely, for keeping Mawonga. For the next 11 months, what could she have done that would have changed the face of this nation? It is very sad that this is what we are going through as a nation. And the painful part is that the energy which is being used to arrest opposition leaders, it is so heavy. Unless we do something as a country, we end up having a dictator as president. What we need to do is, as leaders from all sorts, from the church and everywhere, let us warn our people. What is happening is we are slowly sliding into a one-party state. But is that what Zambians want? In 1991, the Zambians refused. They said we want a multi-party democracy. This idea of some members of parliament, they are hiding, they are failing to talk. You have instilled so much fear in some of these members such that they would rather pretend they are UPND rather than remain within their party. All that shows that you are not having, a fatherly leadership. As a parent, you should know to say, this child behaves this way, the other one behaves that way. But that doesn't make you disown them or try to hold them with, a hard fist. Zambia, I think, is due for change of leadership. 2026 is our time. And already Petauke showed them that we are not going to allow such kind of behavior. And we are going to Lumezi. The marching orders now, honorable members of parliament, is that from here, let us all go and camp in Lumezi and make sure that they see that Zambians cannot be taken for granted. We must win that seat. That is the only language which the UPND are going to understand. Because if we allow them to continue doing what they are doing, they will take Zambians for granted. But if we show them in Lumezi, then we go and camp also in Imfue to show them that they are not going to take Zambians for granted. I think that is the route that we must take. It's so unfortunate that parliament has become boring. People cannot speak. Even when we are going back, we don't even know how we are going to represent you, the people of Zambia. It is so sad that this is where we have reached. You used to watch Parliament TV. Today, people are telling me that we have even stopped because it is no longer interesting. Because Parliament, that is when you are a parliamentarian, you have immunity to speak so that you are able to air out some of the issues which are affecting the people of Zambia. Today, we have this, the pipeline, which was manned by one man. And as we are talking right now, that Sash Patel had enjoyed dominance for the past 4 years. He's made so much money. And today, this is when they reopen to say, no, now it's free. But the 4 years, only one man has been controlling the fuel prices. For us in Lundazi, you find that most of our people, they are buying fuel from Malawi because it is cheaper. Here, there is no competition. Our neighboring Malawi is doing far much better. How can we run a country like that? But what I just want to encourage you is that, you see, weeping endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Let us remain steadfast. Let us remain strong. Above all, we must not forget that leadership comes from above. And the God who loves Zambia so much is going to deliver us. Let us just remain steadfast. Even if you are provoked, do not overreact, because what they are looking for is the Mporokoso seat. What they want is the Lunte seat. Almost all of us here as members of parliament, we have been to court in any case. All these seats are seats which the UPND wanted. All the 9 members of parliament were, actually those seats were taken. Alas, we had to be saved by some good people who still feel people need to be justified for any cause that has to be undertaken. If it was not for some, maybe few who are remaining in the judiciary system who are able to say no to this nonsense, members of parliament like Munduvire, Lunte, and all these, including the Kangombes, they were all gone. So in short, what they want is that all the members of Patriotic Front should extinct. And not only that, what they want is that all of us should never open our mouth to tell them to say that the pipeline is being run by one such Patel. They don't want us to speak the truth. They don't want us to tell them to say, you promise the people that you're going to give them cheap fertilizer. Can you deliver that cheap fertilizer? Once they hear you talking like that, they have hired, you see, some small boys who are always behind the, typing and insulting on the media. So sometimes when you are talking, do not be worried by many negative comments which are coming out, because there are some few disgruntled individuals who have been hired by the UPND so that they can be able to write, negative messages to you. What is important is that Zambians get your NRCs, get your voters' cards, and at the right time, you should come and show them that their time is up. And they will have a shock. I don't even know where they will go to. But what I would want to assure you is that the Tonse team, the president who is coming, is a leader, someone who is going to love this nation. And there will be no vengeance. The only thing we can talk about is love. This country must heal. We are looking for where we can embrace each other and love one another and be able to speak as one country. For now, this issue of dividing us, hurting each other, and all these things which are happening, really, they have to come to an end. And also, Honorable, you talked about the CDF issue. I had said CDF is a scam. Now, the truth is coming out, because I told them, I said, there is no way we have people in Lundazi who are able to do most of the works. Why is it that cadres from other provinces and other towns are the ones who are coming, who are being given contracts? You know what has happened in Lundazi? Most of those people have fled, except for a few Lundazi residents are the ones who are able to do the works properly. But the rest, it was just a license to steal. They put up this system, pushing quite some colossal sums of money so that their cadres can be able to go and loot those funds. And they are failing to complete the projects. And Sialubalo has gone around. He has seen in some areas there is even nothing for him to commission because of the people who were given the contracts. It was used to loot the funds which us Zambians contribute. That's why I say that CDF is a scam, because you cannot start sitting at the provincial level. No, give this one who is a UPND, a secretary somewhere, give this one who is the IPS this contract. At the end of the day, they have gone there, they have failed to complete the projects. And what I had said is now being justified. What I can say is let us pray for our families. Let us pray for our friends who are in prison. The only hope they have is you Zambians out there and us, few members of parliament, those who can even manage to open their mouth. Otherwise, the rest, they have been sealed and they are so scared to say anything. And thank you so much, honorable members of parliament and leadership. God bless you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, DSG. Before I call upon the Tonse National Youth Chairperson for Youth, you raised one very important matter regarding voter registration. The MPs from across the country have been calling. What they have found in the constituencies is that in the non-UPND strongholds, ECZ is apologizing at every juncture. It's either something is not working, cameras are not working. There's been one complaint too many, especially from the PF strongholds. The members of parliament under Tonse have brought reports that ECZ is being very deliberate. They do not want to register voters in non-UPND strongholds. So we're here as members of parliament for Tonse to sound a warning to ECZ that ensure that you do a diligent job. The same way, the same equipment you're sending to other provinces where you think other parties are stronger should be the same equipment you send to areas where MPs are coming from. Why is it that this equipment is only breaking down in certain areas? Why is it that these problems with the equipment, with personnel under voter registration is only happening in certain areas? ECZ, as members of parliament, we want to speak without fear. We want to send this warning to ECZ. You want to rig the election right in the face of the Zambian people. We want to urge you, ECZ, that you must do a diligent job. You must do an honest job. You must act above board. Members of parliament are here, all complaining. It can be a coincidence. It cannot be a coincidence. This is by design, that efforts must be frustrated. One, the number of days that they are allocating to most of our areas are abridged. You've been in other parts of the country for the past 2-3 years. You have only gone to some of our constituencies now, and they're rushing through this particular process. That is not acceptable. And we'll say this without fear or favor, because you want to hide under the cover, believing MPs can no longer speak because they're scared to be arrested. We stand very brave and warn you, ECZ, that you must stop that. Send the equipment that is going to work. We will speak without fear or favor. I just thought I should say that.
Yeah, in fact, Honorable, just thank you so much for amplifying that issue of NRCs and voters' cards. In fact, the issue is that in Lundazi right now, you'll find that the officers on the ground, those who are giving NRCs, if it's not the machine which is having a breakdown, they have not been given money. If you don't pay allowances to the officers who are on the ground, how do you expect them to work? Is it possible for someone to work with hunger for so many days? We are asking you as government that you should release the money to the people who are giving NRCs. The officers on the ground, they need to be paid money so that they can be able to work properly. So we cannot have officers on the ground, you're not paying them. And then in the other areas, they allowed that the NRC and the voter registration should be done at the same time. What you are doing in Lundazi, you are only giving people NRCs so that we can come and have another uphill battle for you to go and give them voters' cards. Voter registration is continuous, and you said that you wanted to sort out the other areas. Now that you are done, we are urging you as government to go and give our people voters' cards as well, because you cannot give the people NRCs only, because those cannot make the people make the right decision, especially to vote you people out. I submit.
Honorable Chairperson for the youth.
Well, thank you very much. I think I will equally ride on the protocols already observed. I think it's extremely important for this regime to now be informed that the youths are in the majority in this country, and the youths are resolved. We are resolved with the fact that we are removing this regime from power come next year in 2026. The truth of the matter is we have given our marching orders to all the youths in this country. And remember, Tonse Alliance is an alliance for everyone. Tonse means together. It means everybody. You may be aware today now, Mr. President, that in Tonse we equally have your members, be it members of parliament from the UPND, be it members from any other opposition, and be it members from your structures. We at Tonse, we are working together. You must be aware that we are resolved as the youths today and in the days to come, that what we shall be operating on is what we are now terming Donch Kubeba Reloaded Promax. And you must know, we shall eat that money you will give us. We shall ensure that all those contracts that you will give us, we shall execute them, make the money, and still ensure that we vote you out. Failure is what we have seen. We have seen the failures of this government. We have seen the high levels of corruption. Who is not seeing it? Only a blind man will not see it. But we are not blind Bartimaeuses. But we'll tell you today that the failure we have witnessed, the hunger that we are feeling, is something that we know. You are in State House today, feeding on taxpayers' money, and you cannot feel the hunger. The people around you, sir, are feeding on taxpayers' money. They cannot feel the hunger. Come down to the ground. We are feeling the hunger. We know, each and every youth in this country knows how tough things are today. The cost of meal is at the highest ever. The cost of fuel is at the highest ever. The amount of corruption is at the highest ever. The amount of illicit transactions in this country is at the highest ever. The amount of theft of medicines, unprecedented. Mr. President, you must know, the time is up. I think if I were you today, the wisest thing I would do is to resign on moral grounds. A resignation and coming to the Zambian people and apologizing for failing to live up to the standards that you promised, Mr. President. Mr. President, today you must know that we, the youths, have got record of everything that you were saying whilst you were in opposition. And because you have introduced a Cybersecurity Act, which is entirely meant to gag our voices and ensure that we do not speak and speak to truth, we shall ensure that we shall speak through you, sir. We shall reproduce all the messages you were telling to the Zambian people. Yeah. We shall ensure that, Mr. President, through you, we shall tell the Zambian people that you raised a small bottle of Pamela, is it plastic of Pamela, and told the Zambian people that it has become too expensive because of failure of the leadership of the then Patriotic Front. And Mr. President, we shall ensure that we reproduce each and every video that you made in this country. We shall reproduce it so that we speak through you, sir. Because you are the only model of communication that we are left with. The Zambian people know that the only model of communication we are left with is you, Mr. President. We have many Damson Lungus that are making those TikToks and those clips. We are looking at them. In fact, now you must know that we have got over 50 youths that we are going to put on salary to just ensure that they are on your page, sir. To pick everything you've been telling the Zambian people in the past and speak to it, because it is speaking the reality of today, unlike the propaganda that was used then. Mr. President, it is time. It is time that you know that the youths are resolved. It is time that you know that I think a time has come that we shall ensure to protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic. We have said it on many platforms that even with our lives, we shall protect and defend the Constitution. Zambia is a democratic country. We remain a constitutional democracy because we gave ourselves the Constitution. The scheme by the government today to decide to come up with provisions which are intended solely to benefit government, how do you then have a constitutional making process or amendment process which is driven by government and not the Zambian people? That is so unfair of us. We gave ourselves the Constitution. A clique of individuals in your cabinet or yourselves, Mr. President, did not give us this Constitution. This Constitution was given to us by the Zambian people. That is the reason why the preamble of the Constitution says, we the people. It does not say, we the cabinet of the current regime, or I, President Hakainde. No. We have told you on several platforms, Mr. President, that if you feel that there is any lacuna in this constitution, or at all any constitutional provision that has to be amended, Mr. President, let us test the provisions of the Constitution. We've got the Constitutional Court, which is the creature of this Constitution, which is mandated to interpret these provisions. And I think it's extremely important that the Zambian people must be reminded that this regime was voted in on the premise of a constitution which we are using. And it was a democratic process. And we shall not be gagged. We shall not sit and let the use of lawfare to gag the leadership of this country. I think it's important for us to be reminded once again that as the youths, we are resolved and our marching orders have been given, that we shall speak through you, sir. Mr. President, we are now addressing you and reminding you that we shall speak through you. We've got those TikToks. We'll continue playing them until you continue ensuring that these platforms that you told us that were being gagged or stopped to be used, because social media is a medium of communication. Alas, you need to know that I think Mwasanga tulete, Mr. President. Mwasanga tulete. And we shall not stop. Thank you very much. And I wish to remind each and every youth out there to go out and register to vote. The power that we have today is in the vote. Do not be frustrated by these agents of doom, so-called the current regime. Let's go out there and vote. Let's go and obtain those voters, national registration cards. Let's ensure that what we have agreed on as the marching orders to do Donch Kubeva proceeds, and we shall do as such. And in fact, I am reminding you again, my youths, that the money that they are bringing is our money. It is taxpayers' money. These colleagues have become so wealthy now that they can go in Livingstone and start throwing 10 kwachas. And they have continued to mock the poor people. A death was occurred in Livingstone because they started throwing money. They've become too wealthy with their corruption. We are watching and we know that they are corrupt and we know they are thieves. The American ambassador has told us that they are thieves. We are dealing with thieves. So these thieves that have become too rich because they are selling our medicine, the medicine that is donated to us by the American government and many other cooperating partners, when they bring that money, we shall get it because it is our money. But we know what we'll do. What we shall do is to vote them out. And they will be disappointed because even the voters that they are registering in their supposed strongholds, they must know that we've given marching orders. Those are our votes. You will receive a rude shock of your lives. If you've never seen a serious landslide victory in your lives, that is what you shall experience in 2026. We shall ensure that we win that election and give power back to the Zambian people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the youth chairperson. Mwebe kala chalo numba tuambo kusondoelela, bakampiongo bara twisalilako. Ili ashirika la mbali ya chipapano lelo, tuachalo lesha pali wa Boma Nusambo, abo ba lusa city yabo bakakona kukakwa, tulosha pali ba Joma Lanji, ba lusa city yabo parliament, bapinta kuma koti mu wachela, honorable Chilangwa, omuntu wakaele akakwa pa fintu fefya ufuntungu fya bufi. Honorable Chitotela alimujere akakwa pa fintu fefya kumufyengelesha. Honorable Munia Zulu alimujere akakwa palufiengo. JJ Banda asuka ena afuma na mchalo mulandu wa lufiengo. Honorable Mabonga ebo bakakire mailo nabo ulufiengo felweka lweka. mkwai na kanso cha person wesu chifumbe waku kawambwa na wachili mukati ifwe pamonga ebo mwasala awe minina kwa bantu fwe balandira kwa bantu pamonga ama MPs na tuima pachishinka na tuima pasweka no munsta tukwete iyo tuleti ichalo chesu ifwenga twakwato mwenso chala onaika kanshina tuimino kumilandilako ukumono kuti ichalo chesu ifi suile mo mafisa kanwa file baleti corruption tule mwenemo bwachela kula mona imitisha liluba amataba balishtisha imisebo balishtisha amaini balishtisha chila bushiku bufufu ntungu ba president akainde ichilema elo bayiminine bale imokutulefo kuteka china chalo batile ine ninkwata mano ninkwata na buchishinka bwakuteka china chalo lero natumuno kuti ubutekeshi bwabo tapale ko bwinga tutwala yo kanshi mwebe na Zambia bonse mwime chipipya nokumono kuti abana besu bonse balembeshanga bakasala mwimi abana imisepela abakote abayiche n'abana mayo chila muntu akwate akabolelo akakutila amaka ene yalumlika voters card chila muntu akwate nokasunga bwino pakashitaka mokene tulefu akonsio koko muli abo bayisaba ECZ nga chakuti baambe fyakula wawa kula shinga muleve ntungulu shenu munchendiomo mwayo ba district chairman mwayo ba MP benu ukuti kuno ba ECZ baleti machine yalifwa baleti yo mkwai petro na ipo motoka pantufo baleti taba nensu na bakwato mwenso pakumuno okuti ubutekeshi bwabo tabukwete buyoyo kanje chobalefwaya kutila munchende shimo bechita register ma voters so tulechita pi kuli mwe bantu bonse ukumona okuti nelo bale saba nensu nga kuli akabulila kuli ama excuse bale pela wangwangwa ebe ntungulushi pautu akonkana nabo so tulefwa mwe bantu tulembeshe apakalamba ngama voters icha kushalikisha lupapuro lwa chalo mwive pa lupapuro lwa chalo ife baleti balefwaya imisepela n'abana mayo bakengire mu butungulushi muni ya musepela umusepelo wa maka wa emini abantu bena lumezi ali kwisalelo ali mu kifungo Maureen Mabonga nina mayo nyine efu umwaiche aima ukwimina kwa bantu bakumfuwe lelo ali kwisa ali mu kifungo bana kampiongo bali kwisa bali mu kifungo abengi chilangwa ni munyine fwemo wale emini na kolu bali waba nensu ababulisha kwe filundo fya mubiri bamusende bamposa mu kifungo kanshite chakwe sho kumfwa yonga baisati tulefa tuchinjo olupapulo pakuti tukwate abantu bana mayo abanenso babulisha kwe filundo fya mubiri nabashala kengire mu parliament olupapulo lwalelo constitution ya lelo amendment act number 2 of 2016 under article 259 nga bali pali buchinka ba president lelo kuti basonta ba DC 50 bana mayo mailo kuti basonta ba permanent secretary bali 20 imisepela olupaputa pali folo le kanya yo echo tule kansana nabo tule tibakateka weso imine mpachinka kanshi bomfie ni constitution ifine ili tulangeni kuti namkwato mutima wa kubombela bana mayo ne misepela pali 116 district commissioners penipo 50 banamayo pali wa permanent secretary penipo imisepela na ma position yonse ayenge alipo elo muntu ebyo kuti bane yonse anayabo mfyelelo twale kona ba MP finish wakesa mukushita ku parliament wale fire pantu MP uli yonse lelo MP bale fire fe ni pressinga MP walandila kwa bantu kumukaka kanshi ba MP bale fokusa ku parliament banshi imisepela shali kaba umulopola butuka ngamwalete imisepela mulya shakusa mukakafye pantu ngani umwashireta wakainde ngamwalufyanya shika mibukisho kuti awe i cyber security law mwaleta taili wino ile tuchingilisha umusepela mulefu washikese ku parliament shika mieba ati ubunga uwele pa 50 kwacha imisepela shika lafu wa fertilizer pali 250 imisepela shika lafu wa dollar pali 10 kwacha so imisepela wakaleta ku parliament kulia palasi wakesa shikaka banyine fwe eba tusunga ni banyine fwe tabaki kale tondro mu parliament yo mulandi wa 20 chitika so kanshi pali kano kashita ba president bomfie ni constitution as the current constitution to make those amendments so mwe bantu besu mwe bekala chalo if a position twasenda nga batonse alliance members of parliament twalieba member of parliament uli onse under tonse tatwaka bachite support pali constitution amendment paka chitafya kanono ba MP balaisa kuma constituencies yoko muli wonse chila MP ala constituency kumwakwe mukwisa mukumilondolwela okuti i constitution ngifenga batonse twalikana pantu natushiwo kuti muli ufuntungu nga balefo kushinja constitution mbalolele constitution ikafume ku bantu mwe bantu mwe mukalande takwaba buteko busenda abuti ani constitution ubuteko bupokela constitution amendment ile fuma ku bantu so kanshi mkwai mwe bekala chalo ba MP beno lino kuisa kuma constituencies do konseyo komuli bakateka weso wa Edgar Chagwalungu ba president wa tonse bali no kutusta address no kutupela ma matching orders pa kutwise kunchende konseyo koko muli no kumiyebe futwala enda pali constitution aho balesa pali pa radio chila bushiku balelanga pa TV bobufu ntungu fyabufi constitution filabale chitanomba efo bali no kuchitapa kwamba kashite fya kumfila yo mule batamba fyo fine bale landa abayiche bandina balanda kali okuti kuli don't kubeba reloaded Pro Max kanshi kula tekanya fino kumfwa efyo baleisa no kushiro kuti abantu next year kwena baleya mkwai kanshi kandekelo mpando ba kampiongo patwenga twisalira
natotele chine tonse representative for honorable members and all the honorable members who are here, honorable colleagues, our dear brother, the youth leader for the Tonse Alliance. It's good to have you in our midst. Let me just appreciate all the distinguished colleagues who are here, including the colleagues from the media. Indeed, I want to echo the sentiments aired by my colleagues here and adopt them as mine. And in addition, I would like to just speak on behalf of honorable members of parliament from Chinga province, being the senior most. We are all devastated by the jailing of our dear sister, colleague, comrade, Honorable Mabonga, who was sentenced yesterday against our expectations. I also want to appreciate the sentiments made by one of my colleagues who was asking, how then are we going to attract so many talked about women, there's so many talked about youths in the political arena where they can also contribute meaningfully to the development of this country. How? Because if we are caging them for things that can be, you know, I am talking about 20 years ago, how members of parliament would express themselves. We also started as youths, and we were learning. We had to learn a lot from the politicians such as our founding father of the Patriotic Front. We didn't learn without mistakes. There were so many mistakes that we made, but we were mentored properly to become the leaders we are today. That's what is expected of the meaningful leadership. Why should Munia be in jail today if he could be controlled and mentored properly? Because the youths have to learn, they have got this anxiety of doing things. So we cannot have an heavy hand and expect that we can then bring youths on board. Maureen Mabonga being jailed for standing in solidarity with a fellow member of parliament who had disappeared. We were all living in fear, not knowing who was going to be the next. And therefore it was just prudent that all the honorable members stood in solidarity of Honorable Jeje Banda, who had disappeared in very unclear circumstances. I'm sure those that dragged Maureen to court are celebrating today. But you should know that the sadness that we are feeling, the people of Lavushmanda are feeling, will not go in vain. Because Maureen didn't create herself. Maureen was elected by the people of Mfue constituency of Ravishmanda district. So therefore you have robbed them of that voice they chose for themselves out of the many leaders that lined up. What has Maureen gone through? From being elected as a member of parliament, she was petitioned. She hasn't even settled to perform her work. And here she is today. Charo cha musango shani. Tule milomba mkwa imwewe na mpumba chiwabwa. Tule iso kufwe babisa tule isa tulande ichalengo kutila nkashesu awe mukalokoni. We expect the legal team to do what they have to do to ensure that they exhaust the available channels of ensuring that Maureen gets justice. But politically, Teresa, mkwai kulimwewa fiashi wesu, kanawesa wa mpumba chiwawa, bachiunda ponde, kufinikoko. Teresa mkwai tuisi tumone, efe tuwala enda pali chichituponene. Pantu bonse na chituponya pa musawo. Umuchisha chinani wa musango yu, teo tuinga sungira mwecharo. So tule mulomba mkwa yu kutia mube fya watekanya, tuwala isa, tumulo ndorwele wino, ife ala tumbukamo. Nga mupando wale foya, tuwala mwana, mwewa pele mupando ni mwe vantu, tatu ibi kapo fya ifo yo. Mufire na imu mwasenda molu bali ukumono kutila, umutitikisha ule chitika mchalo, ube wakupelela papene. Tulingiro kwa kusala kwa chinkumba wiro yumwaka. General elections are due next year. When the people of Zambia should be making decisions. I don't know why we should entertain the idea of by-elections. When people are stressed in so many ways. So, we are praying for our dear sister and our brothers who are already in incarceration. Our assurance to them is that we shall continue standing with the people despite these challenges that we are facing, because that's our mandate, is to speak for the people and represent them. This takes me to one matter of interest. I must say that I was very happy to see the president of this country commissioning a huge project on the Copper Belt. Kafubu Bulk Water Supply Project. Kafula Futar Bulk Water Supply Project. This is a project that is to ensure that our people on the Copper Belt, Ndola specifically, Masaiti, Kafula Futa, Luansha, are supplied with quality water in required quantities. Because in the past, it has been a challenge, especially for Kafu Water, to treat the water from Kafu River to supply to our people. The cost of treating that water has been very high. Now, as the president is embracing that project, I wish to remind him also and his cabinet that as they talk about the debt that they have been lamenting about, that's one of the products of the well-contracted debt, because our people in these areas could not wait for water. And I was shocked to see Honorable colleague, MP for Chililabombwe, Minister of Mines, ignorantly lamenting about the project he didn't understand. It's understandable. But I want to thank President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, because in 2015, I went to his cabinet as Minister of Local Government to seek for permission to contract that debt of $445 million to embark on that project. Why? Because the way they have appreciated it today was the rationale for us to contract that debt. So nero muletu tukamuletu ebo kwa watiyo twalikongola. As you celebrate those projects, be reminded that we were contracting debt knowing that our people needed to be serviced. And I'm speaking with authority because, like I'm saying, I went to the cabinet of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu then as cabinet minister of local government and housing, when the water sector component was still under the portfolio functions of local government. It's not the only project. We also did Kafue bulk when we realized that the underground water of Lusaka province and the water that was being treated was only meant for the population of 1,500 people of Lusaka province. Today, we must be proud to see our people accessing good quality water. And that's how it should be. So in Bemba, we said, don't only praise the one who brews the drink, or the one who rather drinks the already brewed drink. Start by thanking the brewer. Witasha kalonga, kutashowa temeni amale. So, we commend you for appreciating that project, because we thought about it. It was well thought out. So my colleague Kabuswe, you were a mayor under PF government of Chirabombwe. When we were contracting that debt you were talking about, we can forgive you because you were not privy to what transpired. And you didn't know how the people were suffering on the Copper Belt. That project was almost done. Like men have said, when you become a father to a stepchild, you give the name, you should not forget the one who planted the seed. That's how it should be. Government is a going concern. We must learn to appreciate each other, and we must learn to respect each other. Lastly, as I was talking about the fate of Honorable Moldin Mavonga, I have served reasonably long enough to understand Parliament and to understand government functions and to understand how government is structured. I'm appealing to my colleagues in Cabinet today to understand what it means to have collective responsibility. What they're doing is on behalf of the Zambian people. It's not for their own individual wishes. It doesn't reward anybody to be antagonistic with other countries in the manner they are trying to be. It doesn't, because the people who are going to suffer are those people that are dependent on ARVs to sustain their lives. So it's important to own up and address issues that have unfolded in the health sector pragmatically as leaders. You cannot be apportioning blame when you are confronted with a matter such as this one. You can deal with the current ambassador, His Excellency Mr. Gonzalez, but be assured that even the next one they will bring will be the same. So let's be responsible leaders, address matters as they are brought to you. You didn't have to wait for the ambassador to come and lecture to you what the Vienna Convention is regarding diplomacy. Because, you know, we don't need to get to those levels. But if you are mishandling affairs of the state, that's what you get. Mr. Patrick Kangwa, Secretary to the Cabinet, provide leadership. This is where you are needed as the senior-most civil servant, because the failure of government will be squarely on your shoulders, because you are supposed to outlive all the political cycles. That's why I'm so shocked that people would entertain the thought of saying for someone to become secretary to the cabinet, they must have only 5 years experience. Who thinks like that? Do you know how the government machinery functions? This is why we are ending up with all these problems, because we think governance can be just as easy as you pick one person who you think can suit in a position. It doesn't work like that. So lastly, I just want to appeal to my fellow honorable members that, yes, we are faced with this challenge, but it's in times like this that where we determined leadership. They are faint-hearted people. They are also people with principles. Principles are what determines a leader worth their salt. The things happening around us must strengthen us to stand together. It's for a purpose. But at the end of the day, the people of Zambia have got the collective wisdom to place leadership as they deem it fit. Ours is to just do as we are instructed by the people. I know that people will be saying, even here, colleagues, be reminded that the people have given you this mandate to represent them are the owners of this authority. They will decide when to take it, and they will decide how long you will have it. It's the same thing, even at the level of presidency. You may want to stay. Dr. Kaunda, our founding president, who built the nation and all the state apparatus around him, when people said, sir, it's time for you to go, he went. So we have the 7th president, and it's expected that there will be an 8th president. Just as we, honorable members here, are serving now, it should be expected that there will be others also to come. But it depends on how you fulfill your promises to the people that will determine how far they can keep you in the positions of authority they have given you. The issue of NRCs, dear colleagues, having been the former Minister of Home Affairs, know that every citizen is entitled to an NRC, which then becomes a symbol of identity for the nationality of each individual. When we have these extended services, because DNRPC offices are all in the districts, but when you extend the mobile registration services to take them closer to the people, it is expected that all the polling stations must be visited by these officers. So if you say 90 days is the period for the mobile registration, it is expected that at every polling station, people should expect officers to be there 30 days. But yet what is happening now, I don't know whether people have been funded. We hear that officers are not paid. Officers are only staying maybe 5 days at a polling station and then move to another. Minister of Home Affairs, please find resources for that undertaking, because it's a right for Zambians. The NRC issuance is not only about elections and general elections. It's a symbol of national identity for citizens. So when you extend services to the people, make sure that it is done. Abantu bafuire basendo tumitwe utwakwishibirwa ponga wekala chalo. Te chakutirayo bafuire fabapo tumitwe pantu kuleba ma election. So lekeni aba bomfi mutumine okubombera abantu babombere abantu okufika po. Mulondolo irena abantu ocho mukutwire kwa ndalama ya tambika social cash transfer. Eyo mwale bapera 800 kwacha nomba ili muli 400 kwacha. Twalimweba ko time and again. Ukweba tifamulipira abantu mu mafoni. Chali fili kwa. I don't know why you can't listen. The coverage in our rural areas, all members of here who are rural MPs are facing the same complaints. People are not receiving the money as we are making sound through the phones because the network challenges, and most of our people who are vulnerable are not as enlightened as we expect. So let government be responsible enough to revisit these platforms that they expect people to use for accessing social safety net programs. I think with these few remarks, I can only end by wishing our dear sister, Honorable Maureen Mabonga, of Mfuwe constituency, in Lavushimanda, God's blessings, just as we wish our brothers whose list has been given by my colleague, the leader of Tonse for Parliamentary Affairs. We shall stand strong, we shall soldier on, and the people of Zambia must know that in a small numbers we are, we shall continue standing with them. And we wish our leader, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, all the very best and good health. And it is expected that he should get back to provide leadership which people are looking for. Where we are going, it won't be about who. The opposition, people are saying the opposition is weak. The biggest opposition are the Zambian people. They are the ones who are the biggest opposition. Let's not even be naive and cheat ourselves when we are sitting and eating. Because you see, so those who are eating, who are saying they've worked 99%, they can go and bombard the president and say, oh, it's well, sir. Mr. President, be mindful of those treacherous characters around who are eating and making money because they give you all assurances. We see them, 95, 99%, with all the darkness that people are going through. 99% with all the skyrocketing prices of commodities. It's okay for them. And they are saying they have delivered. We have known them. And they are always there. And they will always be there. But the people of Zambia are watching them. Thank you very much.
We just want to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Melisiana. MCC, you're welcome. Thank you.